Hello, guys. Welcome back to Final Whistle Sports. Some more NFL draft content coming your way. Today, we will be grading every first round pick in the first round draft. Sooner or later, probably in the next 2 days, we'll try to go through every team and draft their entire draft classes. But for now, we will just do first round picks. So let's get into it. All right. So obviously, we're going to start out with the first overall pick, which was Cam Ward to the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, the Titans did get their franchise guy, but to me, I do feel like, you know, Cam Ward isn't the greatest quarterback prospect of all time. But they did need a quarterback. They addressed the need on the team. So you could definitely, some people will give it an A because they really like Cam Ward, but there's a serious argument to be made that Cam Ward could have been the fifth quarterback off the board in last year's class. So I'll probably give this pick a B, just because they addressed the need of his a position of need on the team, but I don't think Cam Ward is gonna, like, he's not the best prospect.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I'd probably give it a B too, just because Cam Ward has kind of received, I wouldn't say hype, but he's received a lot less um, criticism than other prospects in this draft because I think he's probably the most refined prospect in this draft. And I'm still not the biggest fan of him, but I can say that the Titans made the right pick. I mean, they needed quarterback and Cam Ward's the guy to take it one.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the pick that they made. It's just more about, like, is Cam Ward really, but we went over that. Number two, Travis Hunter. So we will be incorporating trades in this video. We obviously can't evaluate what the trades are going to turn into, but we can evaluate what they are
Value.
at face value right now. But Travis Hunter, the Jaguars gave up a lot to the Browns for Travis Hunter. Two of those picks have already turned into Quinshon Judkins and Mason Graham, which are two players that I personally like a lot, but they also gave up a first round pick next year. And maybe the Jaguars will surprise me, but I don't think they're going to be that great next year. And I also don't think the Browns are going to be that great next year. So those are going to be two really strong picks for the Browns. And they still were able to get a blue chip prospect. We'll get to them later. But speaking on Travis Hunter, that's going to be one of my favorite wide receiver duos in the league, because it looks like the Jaguars were the situation that are going to play Travis Hunter the most on both sides of the ball. So it looks like Travis Hunter is going to be able to thrive in Jacksonville, and I'm really excited to watch it. Just because of the trade, I'll probably give it a B plus, because they gave up so much in the trade. But I really do like this selection a lot, and cornerback and wide receiver were needs for Jacksonville on both sides of the ball, and I think Travis can have a huge impact there.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a pattern with basically this top seven picks. But like everything happened kind of as it was expected to happen, aside from this trade. But in terms of the players getting drafted in the order that they were, everything kind of fell into the place that a lot of us expected it to. And so I don't think anyone, especially the Jags, really made a bad choice. You can argue that uh, maybe at five they could have got a prospect equal to or slightly lesser than Travis Hunter. So maybe it wasn't worth the picks that they gave up, but I think that it's a good enough trade. I think that giving up next year's first could prove to bite them in the back, but I think for right now, just where we are, I think it's like an A minus.
Okay, that's fair for sure. We're not too far off of each other. Next up is Abdul Carter. This one's going to be an A for me. Especially with what they did later on in the draft. We'll get that in our next video, but their defensive line looks like one of the best in the league. They just picked up Kayvon's fifth year option, and while he isn't like what he was supposed to be, I'd still say he's below average to average, and to have him as a rotation player is not too shabby at all. Then you have Abdul Carter and Brian Birds, which, with the faith that I have in Abdul Carter, I think that'll be one of the best edge duos in football. And, I do think Abdul Carter is possibly the best player in this draft. I don't think that's a crazy argument. What do you think?
No, I mean he's literally a generational prospect, and that
Yeah,
term gets thrown around a lot, but he's that edge rusher prospect that you
yeah.
want that only comes around once every couple of years. And so I think the Giants made the perfect pick here. I mean, he's the best. Just take the best guy on the board, and yeah, I can't give it anything other than an A.
Yeah, like you said, a lot of the board fell the way that we thought, and I was kind of scared just with the Giants organization. But obviously, I hadn't heard about the report with Dayball and Sanders and how that meeting didn't go well. But I was scared that maybe take Shadur at 3 or something crazy like that. But thankfully, they made the right decision and they didn't pass up on a generational prospect in my and yours opinion. And Abdul Carr, do you have anything else to say about Abdul? I heard you gave it an A, right?
Yeah, that's an A for me. Not much else to say. I
Yeah,
mean, it's just the right pick at the right moment.
yeah, I agree. Now we have Will Campbell. Went to the Patriots, a player that we both like. And this pick is going to be an A, but that interview almost made it an A plus for me, man. The way he was emotional, he was so emotional, saying that he was going to fight and die to protect Drake May. That lit a fire up in me. But I'm really excited for the future of this Patriots team. They made some even more moves that I like down the board, but right here, you're grabbing a player who could play on this offensive line one, and he will. And he's maybe if you want to move him to guard, you can do that. But I do think he has the tools to be able to play tackle in the NFL, regardless of the arm length. Just he's athletic. He's just a great football player. So I do think, yeah, I do think that he will be a fantastic piece for them. And they really address just building around Drake May, which is good on the Patriots. And I think they're taking all the right steps to help Drake May become the player that we all know that he can be.
Yeah, I mean, I again just completely agree with you on this one. They just got a plug and play guy at the O line spot. I mean, it really, I say O line spot because he can play tackle or guard. I really hope he does end up playing tackle because tackle
Yeah.
just at the end of the day just tends to be a more
And they
important
get
and
paid.
they do get paid. Uh, they don't work at Amazon, and so I
Yeah.
think it's just a good pick. I mean, I was worried that teams would actually take that arm length stuff into account, but I think that's kind of more out, or I guess this might prove that it's more of an outdated thing, especially because a lot of the guys that went in the first round didn't have that 34-inch
Yeah.
arms that people like. But yeah, Will Campbell, I mean, he put on damn near perfect tape in the SEC at LSU against some great guys like Nick Sporton and Landon Jackson and other guys like that. And so
Yeah, shut up
just
Dylan Stewart for an entire game. That was crazy.
100%. And I just think, yeah, I mean, it's another pick where that's where I thought they were going to go, and they went in the right direction. I think it's an A for me because I love to see them building around Drake May, like you said. I mean, he's a Drake May fan coming out of UNC, and just seeing them improve the team where they need to improve to help him out. It's great to see.
Yeah. Next up, we've got the Cleveland Browns selecting at number 5. They took Mason Graham. Me personally, this is an A minus. Nah, actually, no. I know I'm giving a lot of generous grades, but I'm giving this one an A. Also because of the trade. I mean, getting a first round pick from the Jaguars could really prove to be pretty successful unless Travis Hunter really turns things around there. But I do think Mason Graham is an elite prospect, disrupted games against some of the best offensive lines in the country, and he really played great football all year. Texas, even when they got destroyed. He still played great football in that game, played good against Ohio State. I really like the competitive edge that he has. He's with the Black Queen. That's a positive. And what I'm saying, Mason Graham he's a fantastic player, man. I really do think he can change things on the interior for this defense, and the Browns could be a lot better than what people are giving them credit for, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm all that confident in the Browns. I do like some of the weapons that they have. I liked the first. Well, we'll talk about this more in depth later, but I did like the first four picks of their draft.
Yeah.
But
And then they
I
threw
think
it
this
all
is a
away.
contention. You said what?
And then they threw it all away. I had them. I had never regretted something more than putting them in my biggest winner video.
I know, but the Browns will Brown, and aside from the Browns being the Browns, I do think this is in contention for the best pick of the first round because getting a first round pick. I know people gave them flack for passing up on Travis Hunter, but getting a first round pick while getting Mason Graham, who I think he's not a perfect tackle prospect, but he's an insane D tackle prospect. I mean, he's an almost surefire guy to succeed in the league, and getting someone like him at 5 while trading back and getting first round draft capital next year, which is likely going to be a top 10 pick with what we've seen from the Jags the past couple of years. I think this is an almost perfect pick. I'm giving this an A plus.
I agree. Oh, A plus. Wow. Okay, yeah, that's definitely fair. Getting a blue chip prospect while getting a first round pick in the process is insane. Next up, we've got number 6, Ashton Genty. One of my favorite picks in the draft. As a Bears truther, as someone who loves the Bears, I did hope the Bears would be able to acquire this pick, but I mean, it didn't fall that way. But Ashton Genty, I think he's going to be the franchise player for the Las Vegas Raiders for a long time, and the Raiders. I forgot what his name is. What is the Raiders' best offensive lineman? What's his name?
I know what you say, but I can't
I
remember.
I know who I'm talking about. What is his name? What is his name?
Colton Miller.
Colton Miller. Thank you. Colton Miller. I'm pretty sure he's holding out right now because of money. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's see. Yeah, he's holding out. But yes, he is holding out because he wants money. But if he's still there, I think they could build this offensive line further. And Genti's joining a team that has, I mean, maybe I'm speaking a little bit, but Dante Thornton out of Tennessee. I mean, he's a dog to me. And they have Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers, and now they're adding Ashton Genty to that mix. I'm giving this pick an A as well. I think they made the right decision by sticking there and grabbing their franchise player, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, another one where I just fully agree with you, especially with the Bears. I would have loved to see him go to the Bears with the offense that they're building, with the O line that they managed to put together this offseason. With being a big Caleb fan, but things don't always work out that way. And even with the Raiders, I am excited to see how this offense pans out with a lot of names on that offense right now. Gino's been a very prolific QB in the past couple of years. He's been able to dish the ball to his best guys when you ask him to. And so I am excited to see if he's able to make the most out of these offensive weapons that the Raiders are building. And I'm glad he went somewhere that's not Jacksonville, which was another place that was high on taking him because I think there's maybe not significantly better, but I think the Raiders O line is definitely better than the Jags O line. And just seeing that Genty will maybe have a better chance of succeeding in his rookie year behind the
Yeah,
better O line. But yeah, I think this is a great pick again. I think Genty is literally, he might be a perfect running back prospect with the build and the speed, contact balance, and everything. So I'd give this an A.
yeah, that's definitely a great grade in my opinion. Next up, we've got Armand Membu. I love this pick a lot as well. I really like Armand Membu's athleticism, and he's put up great tape on the on the interior offensive line and at tackle. He's probably going to step in at right tackle, but this Jets offensive line has dealt with injuries heavily in the past, and I think that he can help them with that problem. He can play across the offensive line, as you can see on NFL.com. They're projecting him to play in at step in at right tackle, but I think he can play on the interior as well as on the left side. So I really do like this pick a lot. Maybe they're you maybe could argue Banks is a better prospect than him, but to be honest, I do think that this is good value for Membu. If he fell beneath this, I'm guessing he's probably taken it like by this pick. I'm guessing the Bears will go O line if Membu's still on the board. So I'd probably give this pick an A minus just because Membu isn't the perfect prospect, but I still like this a lot, and it'll help the Jets a lot. Just maybe a little bit that they needed a weapon, but I mean, I still like the pick.
Yeah, I like it as well. I think Membu is a good prospect, but I'll go with what you said. I do believe that they should have taken Kelvin Banks over him, especially if they're looking for a tackle. I think Membu, he did put up good tape in the SEC, and he does have the freakish athleticism. But I do think I was a big fan of this tackle who can play guard class, and especially the guys that were drafted in the first round. But I'd say out of all of those guys, Membu might be my biggest boomer bust guy out of everyone that was taken in the first round. So I think when you're taking someone in the top 10, in the top seven, you want a guy that's more surefire and a guy that you know for sure can stick a tackle. And Kelvin Banks is more of that guy for me, whereas Membu, he still had good tape, but I think Kelvin Banks had much better tape, even if he had
Yeah,
slightly less ceiling or slightly lower ceiling, maybe do that
yeah,
athleticism.
that's fair for sure. I still think it's a solid pick. But what would your grade be for that one?
I'd probably give it a B, B
A
plus.
B. Okay. Next up, we have Ted McMillan. I like this pick as well, giving Bryce a big target to rely on, and they weren't really able to make too many moves for weapons in free agency. They did grab Rico Dowdle, but obviously that's going to be in the backfield, and so grabbing T Mac is uh, a good a good addition for me. This new version of Bryce Young that we've been seeing, he was really great at. He pushed the ball downfield pretty well. Sometimes there were some drops, so maybe the stats don't reflect it as much, but he was definitely able to push the ball downfield well. And I think T Mac they'll go together pretty well in my opinion. But It's just a thing of, to me, I'd probably give this pick a B plus just because the defense was so poor last season. The defense lost them so many games. But Bryce Young definitely needed a weapon. As much as we are both fans of Jalen Coker and we like the young wide receiver room that they have there, and Adam Thielen had some good moments last year, which is pretty surprising. But he did have some good moments last year. But I really do think that defense might have been more of a need here. And there's some guys on this list. Maybe bring the hometown kid back in Jalen Walker back to North Carolina. But I definitely do like the pick for sure because they needed a wide receiver. So yeah, I'll let you go ahead, but I'll still give it a B plus.
Yeah, I'm actually really happy with this pick because as much as defense is their biggest need, I think that there's not really a defensive prospect that I'm like 100% happy with taking at number 8. So I'd rather take a guy that I'm very confident with in the receiver room where you still need help versus maybe slightly reaching for a defensive prospect that's not at the same level as T Mac in my opinion. So I'm a really big fan of this, really big fan of helping out Bryce uh, by just giving him a big weapon, especially. Um, and yeah, I think I'd give this probably an A minus.
Okay, yeah, I think that's fair. We haven't been too far off on our grades today. No disagreements too much.
Mm.
We'll have one.
It's gonna change soon.
Yeah, it's gonna change very soon. Colston, I'm talking about you. But yeah, Kelvin Banks. Kelvin Banks, I really like this pick a lot. Like he says, I think I've been watching a lot more tape and things about the Saints or Saints fans that really have studied Kellen Moore's offense a lot. I know you know a lot about it too, but it really does seem like Banks is a perfect fit for this offense. So, I mean, I really do think he's a really solid prospect. I mean, I've been saying it wrong. For some reason, I thought Will Campbell won Lineman of the Year, but Kelvin Banks won Lineman of the Year, and he won the Lombardi, which is Best Player of the Year, like just in general across all positions. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know about the Lombardi.
Yeah, he won the Lombardi, which is best player across all positions. I mean, like you said, Calvin Banks, the only game that you can look at is Georgia, and that was all Quinn Ewers' fault, in my opinion. Cameron Williams got beat a couple times on the other side, but all of the sacks that came from the left side were Quinn Ewers just being Quinn Ewers. But Calvin Banks was nearly perfect this year. I mean, he's a fantastic player with a really high floor, in my opinion, and he's got the footwork, he's got the agility, and I think he's a really great player, in my opinion. I think this was a great pick. I would give the Saints an A for this pick. I really liked the top 10 of this draft.
Mhm. Yeah, and especially with the slide that Shador took, it ended up panning out even better because this was a probably the towards the end of the time leading up to the draft. This was probably the top spot we had Shador landing at, and
Yeah.
so seeing how far he fell, I think it made sense for them to. I guess GMs probably knew that he wasn't going to go in the first. They were going to go that high, so it made sense for them to go for a better prospect like Kelvin Banks, especially with how shaky their O line is. I do like this pick a lot. Kelvin Banks is in that top 2, in my opinion, of this draft class where him and Will Campbell are kind of interchangeable for me. I'd probably give Will Campbell the edge, but I really like both of them at tackle. Uh,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think this is an A minus pick for me.
Yeah. I think that's a fair grade as well. Now we have the
And
contentious one.
yeah, I think I'll start on this one since I'm probably a little bit more passionate about this. But I genuinely just I don't see many people agreeing with me on this, but I genuinely really hate this pick for the Bears.
Yeah,
I
because
think this is
I don't think
you
you've
go ahead.
watched enough Colston Loveland. I think I won't repeat it to not hurt your credibility, but there's a take you had on Colston Loveland is just flat out wrong. So I
No,
think
yeah, that was a bad take. I got him confused with another prospect, that's for
yeah,
sure. But I get that he has great receiving ability, but I just think that the Bears were nowhere near as aggressive as they should have been in getting prospects that they needed to get. I think going into this draft, the top 2 guys you need to get for the Bears are Ashton Genty and Kelvin Banks. And when you sit back at 10 and don't attack and look for either of them, you get left in kind of a no man's land where you don't want to trade down, but you don't. There's not really a pick in my opinion that's really worth the top 10 pick on the offensive side of the ball. And I just don't think that Colston Loveland is the type of tight end prospect that needs to be taken in the top 10, especially not over Tyler Warren. And yeah, I mean, I get he's a good pass catcher, but I just don't see the vision on this one. I'm just not as high on Colston Loveland as a lot of other people are. I've been seeing his receiving ability, and his receiving ability is very good. but he's just not
What's the
Tyler Warren to
problem?
me. He's not
He's
Tyler
not.
Warren.
Well, I think he's definitely has more athletic potential. That's for sure. He definitely has
And
that.
Tyler Warren's a better player though.
Yeah, right now. But I mean, what is the NFL draft nowadays? You know what I'm saying? So Loveland
Yeah,
has
but
more.
how has that worked out for teams recently drafting off pure athleticism? I'm not saying Colson Loveland is pure athleticism because he's
Hasn't
produced at the
worked. It
college level.
hasn't worked terribly. I mean, it hasn't.
In certain
There's
cases, it has.
it's hits and misses, right? I mean, nothing has a perfect success rate in this league. So Colston Loveland, and it's not off of all athleticism. Put up almost 600 yards as a tight end in an offense that could not pass the ball. That's pretty great production. I'm not saying that Colston Loveland would have been Tyler Warren at Penn State, but he's at putting up at least 800 to 900 yards, and I'd say that's at the very least, right? So, uh, actually, no, at the very least, 1,000 in my opinion, because Michigan's pass offense was so poor, like so bad. They literally couldn't pass the ball when Orgy was in the game. And so that's several weeks just missed out for Colston Loveland. But if this offense was like the Penn State offense was so dependent on Tyler Warren, I'm not saying that Colston Loveland is a better player than Tyler Warren right now, but I do think he's putting up similar numbers than to Tyler Warren if the offense is that much focused around him. So yeah, I do think this was a good pick. I give this an A minus because he's really like the site says, like I said, jumbo wide receiver that can he's that good. He's so smooth. He's a great route runner. He's really that good. Like he can play anywhere. I think Ben Johnson can get really creative with him because I think he has the potential to be better than Laporta. So really do think he's that good. I think both of the guys have potential to be better than Laporta. So I think what's his name? Ben Johnson could have gotten really creative with any of them, but I do think this is a great pick from the Bears, and I think he's a fantastic player. But actually, what's your grade
Yeah,
for it?
yeah. I was about to say I'm willing to die on this hill. This could come back to bite me, but I'm willing to die on this. I'm giving this a C grade. I just don't see it. I think Harold Fanning will produce more in the NFL than Colson Loveland will.
That's
But
that's a horror take in my opinion. All right, that's a really really weird take. Um, yeah, he'll produce more in the NFL when he's backing up a top seven tight end to start his career. Like what?
you can put two Titans on the field.
I, okay. Um, yeah. Now we've got Michael Williams of the San Francisco 49ers. I like this pick a lot. He's got the traits, and his production was kind of hurt, in my opinion, this year because he was playing injured a lot of it. But yeah, I do like this pick. They do have a need there because, there's just kind of been an exodus of 49ers players in this offseason. So it's really just about getting in as many bodies as you can, people that can contribute on day one, and that's what they need. And I think Michael Williams has the athletic ability, but he also is a pretty refined player, in my opinion, that can make an impact on day one. And I think with Bosa already on the line, he's not going to be and maybe Abdul Carter. Let's say Abdul Carter has a first good couple of weeks with his pedigree and stuff. And Brian Burns is an elite player, don't get me wrong, but he's not Nick Bosa. So I think Michael Williams to get a lot of one-on-one looks and hopefully be able to impact the game on day one. But I'll give this pick a B plus because I think you could have gotten him lower potentially.
Yeah, but I still like this pick. I mean,
Yeah, I do for
a
sure.
lot of the a lot of the offseason we had him going in the top 10, and I think he's worthy of a pick at this spot. I don't think he's not the best potential pick. I think they should have focused more on DB here. But I think if you want to take an edge here, I think he's one of the safest non-producing guys, if that makes sense. Because
Yeah,
I
I
don't
got
think it's his fault that he didn't produce, but like when you have guys like Shamar Stewart as well, I think he's a safer prospect than Shamar because as much as Shamar's lack of production wasn't on him, I just think that Michael Williams is a safer prospect. So I do like the pick. I think I'd give it a B
okay.
because I just don't think it's the right position to be focusing on for the Niners. But I think if you want to take an edge who has high potential, his floor is a lot higher than some of the other really high ceiling guys.
Yeah, that's fair. Next up, we've got Tyler Booker at 12 to the Dallas Cowboys. Me personally, I know a lot of Dallas fans really wanted a weapon, and I understand that because Jalen Tolbert as your wide receiver two on a team that as much as people hate the Cowboys are looking to make the playoffs. You still have Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons. You know, you still got some guys on that team. They're looking to make the playoffs, and they needed offensive line help. Zach Martin just retired, and oh, sorry, there's a fly there. Uh, and Tyler. Oh my goodness, I mixed up the Tylers. Which one
Tyler Smith.
isn't? Which one isn't that good?
Oh,
I think it's Tyler
it's
Guyton. It's Guyton.
yeah, it is
Guyton
Tyler Guy. He's trash.
Guyton
Yeah.
is not that good yet. I mean, there's still more time, and I think Booker allowed one sack in like 950 pass blocking snaps at Bama, which is pretty insane. But yeah, I do think Booker can step in there and make a difference day one. He's not the most athletic guy, but I do think this was a smart pick, and a lot of Dallas fans did want a weapon, but and I know there a lot of them were devastated whenever T Mac went off the board at 8 because I know a lot of people thought that Jalen Walker was the pick for Carolina there. So I'll give this pick a B. I do like it. You know, I can definitely understand the need for a weapon just because if you want to be a contending team that's looking to make the playoffs, Jalen Tolbert as your wide receiver two, and then the other weapons. You look at the backfield. It's Miles Sanders and what's his name? Who's the other guy that they got brought in? Another wash person. Do you remember who it was?
Did they bring in Dalvin?
No, no, that was last year.
Okay.
Javonte Williams, yes. Yeah.
Mm.
Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders, and maybe in 2021. But 2021, that's peak. But in 2025, that is not ideal. So they probably maybe should have looked to grab another weapon. But I don't think they did too bad in the later rounds. So we'll see how it all goes.
Yeah, I could definitely see the argument that this is a reach, but honestly, the more that I've thought on this pick, the more that I've liked it. Um, Tyler Booker, just watching his tape more, I've watched. I had heard about him obviously before the draft. But I didn't really watch up on him much, but watching more of his tape, he is good in pass pro, and he's not necessarily bad at anything. You know, I think he's
Yeah,
a pretty safe prospect, and I don't think there's like a guy. If you want an interior guy that you can say is not a reach at this pick. Like
yeah,
you could say Gray Zabel, but that's he's more of like a low first round guy. He ended up going, I think, 18, right?
yeah,
And so the more I've thought on this pick, the more I've liked it, and the more I've liked this Cowboys draft class in general. So while you can argue for them taking a weapon, I'm pretty happy with this pick. I'd probably give it a B plus.
yeah. I gave it a B, not too far off of you, but I do definitely see the need for. Oh wow, they did not end up taking a receiver, but they did take Jaden Blue, which I don't hate to be honest. But uh, yeah, we'll see what their plan is at receiver. 13 is Kenneth Grant. I definitely did not love this pick. I thought Walter Nolan should have been the pick for them if they were looking for interior defensive line. And it sounded like Walter Nolan killed his interviews and he did a great job, addressed all the concerns that teams had about him. And I do like Walter Nolan more as a prospect for that reason. I know slight against Kenneth Grant, but he kind of fell down my draft board closer to the process just because with Walter Nolan's character concerns kind of going away, I did start to like Walter Nolan a lot more and more than him. And even Derek Harmon, I became a huge fan of. Rip to his mom, though. That's a really sad story. You heard
Rest
what
in peace.
happened?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's
He, but at least he got to see her in the hospital before she died.
yeah, really sad. But you know, hopefully he'll be a great player because I really liked him a lot towards the end of the draft cycle. But you can't hate on this pick too much. I'd probably give it a B minus just because I like Nolan a good amount more than Kenneth Grant, and he's on the board here. But I don't hate the pick at all, and they address the position in need, and it's a good prospect, so can't hate it.
Yeah, I think I 100% agree. I just think Walter Nolan is a much higher ceiling prospect. Kenneth Grant is a very high floor guy, though. I'm not mad at the pick at all.
Mhm.
But I think if you are looking for a D tackle, you just go for the home run ball and try to take Walter Nolan in that spot. Because Kenneth Grant at 13 does feel like the slightest reach.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'd probably agree with you on the B minus.
yeah. Next up, we have Tyler Warren at 14. This is going to be my first A plus, I think. Wow, look at this. Anthony Richardson and slash or Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, that would be hilarious. I want to see Daniel Jones start a football game in the year of our Lord 2025. But yeah, I think this, like we said in every single mock draft going up to this, Anthony Richardson, his A dot is too high. They need a safety blanket, and Tyler Warren can do just that. He thrives in those intermediate areas, but he is also a vertical threat. So you cater to Anthony Richardson's game, but it also helps you to reel him in just a little bit, right? So I do like this pick a lot, and the fact that they didn't have to stay where they were. I mean, a lot of analysts were concerned that they'd have to trade up because Jacksonville was here. That was a possibility. Jets were here. That was a possibility. Even Carolina or the Bears was a possibility. Cowboys. Some people had the Cowboys taking Tyler Warren. So, for them to be able to stay at 14 and kind of get what has been viewed as the prototype for tight ends for this draft, I think it's a great pick for them, and I think he'll fit just fine.
Yeah, I'd also probably give this an A, leaning towards an A plus. I mean, it's the pick we expected all offseason. It's the obvious pick, but sometimes it's just the best one to take. Just
Yeah,
take the best weapon that's on the board, and like you said, Anthony Richardson is a guy that loves to push the ball down the field. And not that Tyler Warren isn't a deep threat, but I mean, at the end of the day, he's a tight end, so there's only so much vertical speed he has. And so having a guy that can run those intermediate routes very well, that's just kind of nose zones, that just kind of gets open, and a guy that can be versatile in your offense, play like the kind of Taysom Hill role if you want him to do those wildcat snaps like he did in college. I just think Tyler Warren is just such a great all around prospect. He might be a top five positionless prospect in this draft for me. But yeah, I think this is probably an A plus for me. Yeah.
all right, moving on to 15. During our live stream, if you guys weren't able to tune into that one, if you want to see our live reaction to these picks, go check it out. It's under the live section on our channel. But Jalen Walker, I mean, I'm a huge fan of this guy. I love his athleticism. And me and Jeremiah both have been kind of burned by these picks in the past, by these players that are uber athletic, that have a bunch of versatility, and they kind of are jack of all trades but master of none. But I think he'll be able to be on that pass rush day one. But I mean, he still has the ability to play as a linebacker. So I do think this is a good pick because the Falcons just need help in the front seven and on defense in general. And it's nice because, like I said, a lot of Georgia fans are Atlanta Falcons fans. So it's nice to keep someone who's a huge leader in that locker room, a face of the team, someone that a lot of people in the state of Georgia loved. So it's good to keep him in Atlanta. I like the pick a lot just because, you know, it's good for the fans. After what they did to them last year, worked out, but the scare they gave them last year was crazy. So it's good that they get to keep one of the heroes in Georgia.
Yeah, and I'm kind of doing the opposite because I was a huge fan of that pick. Well, not a huge fan, but I thought that pick was going to pan out last year, and so far I've been proven mostly right. But this year, I don't know. I just can't get past. I just can't get sold on Jalen Walker 100%. I mean, he's either going to be Michael or he's going to be Devin White, and so like I don't
Devin White was cold for a year.
for a year, and then he
One
got
one
cut week
Super
two.
Bowl winning year.
I mean, that might be worth it for Falcons fans after what they've been put through
Yeah.
this past 10 years. But I'm just not the biggest Jalen Walker fan. I can't 100% put my finger on it aside from just the burns from the past. But I just don't see it panning out. Even I guess that's not a great analysis, but I just don't see it panning out.
I understand
But
that because in pass rush scenarios, he's not the best Mike linebacker, but he's capable of playing there. But in a lot of pass rush scenarios, sometimes you see he doesn't have much of a plan and kind of just uses his athleticism, and he doesn't have a deep bag of moves that he goes to. So I can definitely
yeah,
understand what you're saying, but the athleticism jumps off the page for me, and I kind of see the versatility as a plus in the Falcons defense that needs a lot of help.
yeah, I appreciate the assist, but
Yeah.
I'll probably give it a C plus.
Okay, I'd probably give it an let me stop being so generous.
It's fair
B
though. Like
plus.
no one really did bad in this. In the well, I guess I'd say the Bears did bad, but consensus wise, I don't think anybody did bad in this first round.
Some people really think the Bengals like some Bengals fans are
I've
hot.
been seeing that actually. I haven't seen that. I just don't get
Yeah.
it. But I didn't
I
love the
mean,
Lions
I
for
get
years, but
it.
we'll
You
get to
get
that.
it. You get why.
But like that's
He
just kind
had
of a
he
lack
had
of ball
4
contact.
sacks in his college career. You
And
can't
that's box score watching though.
yeah, it is, but he still had 4 sacks. I'm saying you can understand why fans on Twitter and Instagram are gonna be mad.
All right, yeah.
Yeah. You can't expect them to do much more. Next up, we have one of my favorite picks of the draft. They could have gone Will Johnson here, and They went Will Johnson in the second round. So those are those. I mean, I had them taking Kenneth Grant at this spot. Sometimes I had them taking. I never had Walter Nolan really fall to them once I got locked in on Walter Nolan. I had Will Johnson going to them at this spot, and they were able to get Will Johnson the second. We'll talk about that later. But they were also able to get Walter Nolan, one of my favorite um, uh, prospects in this draft. He can still work on some things with technique and getting his hands up quick, but I mean, his explosiveness, his athleticism is really off the charts. I just want to stop and say, Jimmy Butler saved my life. I love you, Jimmy Butler the third, Houston native.
I haven't been keeping up.
I love him, man. But yeah, I mean, it's just I really love what the Cardinals were able to do in the first two rounds defense wise. I think it's a huge and taking a gamble on Will Johnson in the second round, in my opinion, is not a bad decision to make at all. So I really do like that the Cardinals were able to grab one of my favorite prospects and address a huge position of need in the same stroke. So you can go ahead. I'd probably give this pick an A.
Just need to make it known that Pods has 21 points for some reason.
He's
But
nice. He's really nice, man. Like this guy always makes the right decision now. Like it's
yeah,
crazy how from the
going
end
from
of
beginning of the season Pods to
the
this is he was a terrorist, bro. But yeah, I also really like this pick. I was one of the guys saying they should have taken DB specifically. I don't think D tackle was necessarily their biggest position of need on the defense, but I am glad that they took Walter Nolan. I mean, I watching him from when we recruited him at A&M. I was really a big fan of him, and obviously, things happen and people leave A&M as usual. But um, yeah, he's a great prospect. I mean, like we mentioned it with Kenneth Grant, he's the highest. He might be the highest ceiling D tackle in this first round.
yeah.
And so just and while his ceiling is high, he's not a boomer bust guy for me. Like I think he's either a boom or like he's just all right. Like even though he has some technique issues, I think his athleticism at his position is good enough to carry him to a solid NFL career, even if he doesn't really put it together.
Yeah, that's fair. Next up, we have Shamar Stewart at 17. I don't hate this pick as much as the consensus, but I'd probably give it a B plus or like a B plus or an A minus. I'm kind of teetering in between there because the Bengals just kind of need help defensively in general. And I think that but what Bucky Brooks wrote, I mean, he's gonna get to play against one of the best play alongside one of the best pass rushers in the NBA and Trey Hendrickson. So that'll probably be
In
a
the
big help.
NBA,
And is did I say the
in
NBA?
the NBA, yeah.
Oh, my apologies. In the NFL. But that'll probably help. I mean, learning from Trey Hendrickson isn't the most athletic guy. He's got a lot of bend, but he's really good at using his hands. And maybe he could help Shamar improve in those areas a little bit more and just work on finishing plays. I think, in addition to the role, yeah, I feel like you could admit this that Shamar Stewart did have an issue finishing plays sometimes. Am I completely wrong for that?
In pass rush for sure. I think
Yeah.
for sure in pass rush,
In
he's just the
pass rush,
guy
I think he's
that
an
that
excellent
would
run
slide off
defender already.
tackles. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And
he would slide off QBs quite often.
yeah, just working on finishing plays, I think, is a big thing for Shamar Stewart. Richard, these are all things that can be developed, especially with one of the best alongside him. And I think he has the tools to be great. He's just got to put those things together. But I'd probably go with a A minus for this pick.
Yeah, I like this pick as well. I mean, I saw the kind of athlete he was while watching with A&M, and it was just disappointing to me constantly how we didn't really use him right, and even Nick Scoring down the line wasn't really being used
And
right,
I
even though
think
he was.
y'all making Nick Scoring beef up is why he fell out of the
Yeah,
first round.
I know he looks. I just don't like looking at him play right now. I'm not going, or not right now,
No,
but
well, he looks better. He came into the combine 20 pounds back to his Purdue
yeah,
weight.
that's what I meant. I didn't mean right now, but as in when he was playing at his playing weight. I just his arms were weird to look at with how big they were, but
Yeah.
yeah, I just don't like. I don't like what we've done with really every like high tier prospect we've got in the past like 3 years. We've
Oh
just done
man.
terrible things. It's just, I mean, Evan Stewart, Moose Muhammad wasn't like a huge prospect, but he has way more potential than we showed. But anyway, this isn't an A&M rant. But I think Shamar is a lot better prospect than a lot of people are giving him credit for. It's not just combine hype. I think I mean, he already showed how good he is as a run defender, but people don't really care
Good,
about that when it
good
comes to
Senior
that.
Bowl as well.
Yeah, he did put together a very good Senior Bowl, and but um, yeah, people just don't really care as much about run defense, or at least the casual fan doesn't care as much about run defense when it comes to an edge. They just want to see how much do you get to the QB, how many pressure are you getting, how many sacks are you getting. And I think he will be able to put pressure on QBs consistently in the NFL with his bend and with his just pure burst. And I like that they're taking a guy that can take a little bit of the attention off of Trey Hendrickson, and give him maybe an opportunity to get more sacks now that there's not no one else on the line.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like this pick. I'll give it an A minus.
Okay, now on to Gray Zabel, 18. At 18 for the Seattle Seahawks. I really like this pick a lot. I'm probably going to give this one an A just because, I mean, I'm guessing he's not going to play tackle in the NFL, but realistically, like it says, he could play every single position on the offensive line, which is crazy to say, but it really is the truth with Gray Zabel. Sorry, the Rockets just did a lot of dumb stuff in a row. It's really
I'm
crazy
seeing
to,
it.
huh?
That's what I'm seeing it.
Yeah. Gray Zabel, man. 5 position versatility is a crazy thing to say, but it really is true with him. I'm giving this pick an A minus. Actually, well, yes, I'm giving it an A minus because I do think you could have gone with Jahad Campbell here. But I really do think this was a huge need for them. Watching the Seahawks last year, the interior offensive line was so poor, and I think Gray Zabel could play all three in those positions. If there's injury or need, he can move out to tackle. So I really do like this pick a lot.
Yeah,
And
I
I just want to
agree
say,
with. Oh yeah,
if Gray Zabel was going to Bama or something like that, I think he would have been more
completely
in play for
toxic.
this pick. But yeah,
Mm. But yeah, small school bias is always going to be a thing unless you're Ashton Genty, and so I
well,
do think it's a good pick as
there's a
well.
difference between FCS and Boise State. But yeah,
Yeah, that's fair. But I do think this is a good pick. I agree with the Jahad Campbell take. I really am shocked that we ended up getting him, but uh, I think, yeah, risky or richer, but I think it is a good pick, even though it is the slightest reach for me. I mean, Gray's is a guy who could have potentially, with the draft, with the way the draft played out, he wouldn't have, but who could have potentially in some mock drafts fallen out of the first round. And so I think taking him at 18, even though it's like a huge position of need, which is why I think it's a good pick. I think there are other positions of need that you could have filled, like Jahad Campbell or anywhere in the defense.
yeah,
So I'll give it a B plus because I think Gray Zabel is a good prospect, like you said, with his versatility and his ability to be solid, not just be versatile, but be solid at every single one of those positions.
yeah.
I mean, there's like a 0% chance he plays center, but specifically guard and
No, no,
tackle.
no. There is a chance he plays center. I
Really? I
Yeah,
thought I know they say he's capable of it, but I didn't think that
he
that was
played it
actually
at
gonna
the
happen.
Senior Bowl and he looked good. He looked good at every position
All
at the
right,
Senior Bowl. Yeah,
all right. Well, maybe he'll prove me wrong, but uh, I think this is a solid B plus pick.
yeah. This next pick up here, uh, I guess this is gonna be my worst pick so far. I'm probably gonna give this a C plus. Now, like we said, shout out to Ian on the live stream, but there was huge and great value for corners in the second round. Let me just confirm who the Buccaneers took in the second round. I know they grabbed a corner. Benjamin Morrison, yeah, I like that pick a lot,
Mm.
but it's just more of a thing. Like some Bucks fans are like, "Oh, we always have great wide receivers. Got to keep the wide receiver core sharp with Godwin and Evans getting older." And it just feels like, is this the time to do it? Is the first round the time to do it with the guy who went at number 20 on the board? I don't really know. But like we said, great value for corners in the second round. I do think Emeka Egbuka is a really safe prospect, but I do give it a C plus, not because of the player that Emeka Egbuka is at all, and the wide receivers on the Buccaneers are getting older, but I do think that there are much bigger positions of need for the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. As much I do really love the pick, just because it's exciting. You know, it's just kind of a fun pick to make,
Hmm.
and especially with Baker. He's gonna eat with Baker, but yeah, it just doesn't really make sense at all. Like defense is really the only place you should be looking in the first round for them, especially with the prospect, like you said, like Jade Barron on the board and Jahad Campbell on the board, both of which are two of my favorite guys in the first round. And I just really with anyone on the board. I mean,
There's a
they could have
lot of
taken
defenses.
literally any.
Mike
Yeah,
Mike
they
Mike
could have
Green
taken
is not.
any.
Mike
Maxwell
Green
Harrison, Derek Harmon. I mean,
and Will Johnson is not in the
JPJ.
first round.
There's like they could have taken any first round, any guy that's been named in the first round as a defensive player. Damn, they could have taken him, and I would have been happier than this pick. But as much as I love Emeka, as much as I love how exciting this could be, it's got to be a C for me.
Okay, that's fair for sure. But yeah, now we have one of my favorite picks in the draft. I'm giving this an A plus. Um, I think Jade Barron is a fantastic prospect, one of my favorite uh, in the draft. He could possibly play on the boundary, but I don't think so with his size. But it definitely could be a possibility. But he definitely has the ability to play as a box safety or in the slot. So I think this defense is already fantastic. And, I think that he adds to that. And so I think this is a great pick for the Broncos. They did kind of fail to get the caliber of running back I thought they could. So maybe you regret not taking a Travion Henderson or an Omarion Hampton here if the pick was not Jade Barron, because Jade Barron is really that good in my opinion. So shout out to RJ Harvey though. Not a bad player at all, but I do think some Broncos fans are
Fast,
expecting. What'd you say?
fast.
Fast?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, he
RJ
is.
Harvey.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
is really fast. But yeah, I think some Broncos fans are expecting to get a better offensive weapon here, maybe a Luther Burden. But Jade Barron falling to 20 probably was not
he's
on the
24.
who?
RJ Harvey's 24.
Oh wow,
Did not know that.
it's got 3 more years of his prime. But yeah, um,
um,
yeah, I do love this pick just because I feel like a lot of us didn't expect Jade Barron to fall here. So
Yeah, I mean, I can't agree anymore. They already have two very solid corners, obviously PSU being the best corner in the league. And Riley Moss looked very solid at times last year. He had some shaky moments, but I think he looked
Mhm.
solid in general. And so having Jade Barron to shore up that nickel spot, which is really, in my opinion, kind of the only weakness in that almost elite deep, no, just elite defense.
Elite defense.
And
Yeah,
so
I guess you meant
uh,
almost perfect, right?
yeah, I was gonna say almost perfect, but like it was just a it, I don't know. Yeah, it was a shock to me that Jade Barron was able to fall this far, and he was my number one prospect in the first round. Like he was my favorite guy,
Mhm.
uh, and I think he's just an insane DB prospect. But yeah, having him fall this far, it's an A plus for me. I think this is the best pick of the first round.
That's definitely fair. At number 21, we have Derek Harmon. We already spoke of the tragedy that occurred. Rest in peace to his mother. But, I think he was a player that was a big riser for me down the stretch of the draft process. And I really like what he was able to do at Oregon. And I think he just had an overall great year. He was a great run defender with what's it called, just with great hands, and he was able to disrupt games like could very consistently. Even in the Ohio State game where they struggled, he was able to he had some good plays in that game. And so obviously this is a Cam Hayward replacement pick, which he's really getting up there in age. I mean, just yeah,
He
35 years
might be
old.
35. Yeah.
35 years old for Cam Hayward. So this is obviously his replacement, and he's got a great guy to learn from. So I'll give this pick a B plus just because, I mean, I guess you weren't going quarterback anymore because of Shadur Sanders, but there are definitely other ways you could have gone at this pick. But maybe even a what's it called, a running back, which they did do later, but I really like the running back pick, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, Derek Harmon, great pick. I'll give it a B plus. I do like that they filled a position of need, and I do like Derek Harmon as a player.
Yeah. On draft night, just think about it at the moment. It was nothing more questionable because we didn't know what was going to go on with that whole Shadur situation.
Mhm.
But as we've had some time to reflect, I do think this is a pretty good pick. Like you said, they do need a replacement for Cam Hayward. This is likely going to be his last year, or maybe if he wants to drag it and bring out another year. But um, yeah, I just think it's a good pick. Watching more tape on him since draft night, he really is a beast. Like he's a dog, especially in run defense, and even he can pass rush as well too. But I just yeah, it's a much better pick than I thought it was on draft night. I'd probably give it a B just because at the end of the day, they could have got a QB that is starting
Will
caliber
Howard.
later in the draft. Which, like, I know they did get AQB, but like,
I really don't. I really think he's gonna
I
start,
know I
man.
wish. Yeah, I'm gonna say having Will Howard as your starting QB is honestly not the worst situation in the
It's
world.
really not.
Which,
I really
yeah,
they could have done so much worse, in my opinion. Like,
Dylan Gabriel in the third round is much worse. But
yeah,
um, yeah, I think we'll talk about this later when we get the full draft video. But if you Will Howard could turn into something.
bro.
But
I tell you,
anyway,
this guy, he's big, athletic, with a good arm. Like, he's
like
just
yeah, sure he was a little inconsistent, but like
yeah,
he's a pocket passer and he can run.
yeah,
But anyway, I'll probably give this pick a B.
yeah. That's fair for sure. Next up, we've got Omarion Hampton, 22. Once I realized that Najee Harris was uh, on a 1 year, $5 million deal, this pick went from like a B, B minus to an A minus for me. I really do like Omarion Hampton a lot. And I've been seeing like a lot of people share a sentiment that they don't think he's that good, but I really am a huge fan of him. So to grab him, I think he complements Najee perfectly for this year. And this is a team that wants to build their identity in the run game. And what do you take, Omarion Hampton and Najee Harris, or Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins?
Oh,
Okay, wow. I
I
did not think
well, really? You think it's like clear cut? I
Gus
think
was
without
pretty
JK
bad.
play,
Gus was pretty bad at points.
that's fair, but without JK played when he wasn't injured, I think it makes it a discussion. But I'm not as high on Omar and Hampton as you are. I think he is a good prospect. I don't see him as the like surefire first round guy. Oh my god, I don't see him as like the surefire first round guy that he was kind of seen as towards the end of the draft cycle. But I do think he will be productive at the very least, especially after Najee is gone. But I think for the for the Chargers, this is a good pick, honestly,
Yeah,
because of how they want to run their offense. They're not trying to force it all onto Justin Herbert like it has been in the past. They are making an identity around the run game, and so that makes it a better pick for me. Even though I'm not like the hugest fan of Amarian,
yeah.
I just cold.
And yeah, he really is. But the receivers that they were able to grab in the later picks, I do think they did a decent job. And I mean, Trey Harris complements Lad McConkey pretty well, in
Mm,
my opinion. Having those
I do
guys
like
on the
that pick.
yeah, having those guys on the outside is not too shabby. So I do like this because they were able. The Chargers want to run the ball, regardless of what you think about Marion Hampton. I'm sure they wanted to grab one of the best running back prospects available because I think that 2-man punch is going to be pretty important in the future for Jim Harbaugh going forward. Next up, we've got Matthew Golden to the Green Bay Packers. I'm not as high on this pick as a lot of Packers fans were. I think a lot of them are kind of just happy that they finally took a wide receiver in the first round. But for me personally, the main problem, right? Josh Jacobs even said it himself. We don't really have a wide receiver one, which I don't know why he said that. But Jesus. Sorry, I just saw Draymond airball three. Um, um,
Oh,
yeah. Matthew Golden, I don't know if he's a wide receiver one in the NFL. I definitely probably like him more than you do. But, he kind of projects more to me as like a quick slot guy, with some versatility to play on the outside. But I don't know. It's kind of interesting. I'd probably give it a B because at least they tried to address the need. I do like Luther more in this spot, to be honest, but because I think Luther can be a real game changer. He's got the size and that. He's just got that dog in him. The Bears, when they
mm.
picked him, they said they love the competitive edge. I just love me some Luther Burden. But Matthew Golden is still a very solid prospect. I still give this pick a B.
Yeah, I kind of feel basically the exact same, but a little bit more bleak because I just don't think Matthew Golden's the guy. I've just not been high on Matthew Golden this entire draft cycle, especially as much as a lot of people have. But yeah, I do think Packers fans a lot have been hyping up the pick just because it's finally a receiver, like you said. But I think there are plenty of other guys that went later than Matthew Golden that fit this Packers situation better than he does. Like you said, he just feels like he's just going to be another Jaden Reed, another one of those guys. That's which I mean, if he produces like Jaden Reed, it's still a pretty solid pick. But he's just going to be another one of those guys, you know.
Yeah,
And
Jaden
I
Reed
think
down
that
the stretch. Jaden Reed down the stretch of the season was pretty rough, man.
yeah, yeah, he definitely didn't live up to how he started off the season. But
Yeah.
even then, I just think like a guy like Jaden Higgins or like you said Luther, those are both better guys that are going to be more ball dominant in this situation that you want for the Packers and that you want for a target for Jordan Love, especially a guy like Jaden Higgins. I know I've been a big fan of him this whole, but he's a big possession receiver. He's a guy that Jordan Love can throw to multiple times a game and not get tired of, and he consistently stays open. So I like him more to this
And
Packers situation than
we
Matthew
gotta,
Golden.
as Houston guys, we gotta pop out to a Texans game to go watch our
Oh
guys,
my
man.
goodness, the
I'm
duo.
a cop the I'm a cop
Imagine
the
both of them
Noel
was disgusting.
I'm a cop the Noel jersey. You cop the Higgins jersey, bro.
I'm so down.
Yeah, but
But
yeah,
yeah, I'd
you
probably give it. I mean, I'm a lot lower on Matthew Golden than like a lot of people. Like, there's quite a few guys that went past him that I take over him as a prospect,
can.
which to the point where it might be blasphemous. But I'd probably give this a B minus.
Okay. Yeah, and see, like, this to me just can you see that I highlighted something?
Elite speed. Yeah, he's just not elite speed for me though. Like
And
he
I
was a deep
don't
threat in college, obviously, but
no,
he's
yeah.
just not. Uh,
Before that 4.29, no one was saying that Matthew Golden had elite speed. And so I think he just ran his 40 well, which good for him. I'm not going to hate on him for doing that, but I don't think that he has 4.29 game speed. Next
yeah,
up, we've
but
got
I didn't say like a guy. I know he didn't talk. He didn't walk the walk on the talk he said, but Isaiah Bond, I think, has more elite speed than Matthew Golden, at least if
of
we're
course,
talking game wise.
Isaiah Bond was the fastest wide receiver at the combine, miles per
Yeah,
hour
in
wise
terms of
for
top
sure.
speed, yeah.
Yeah. Next up, we've got Donovan Jackson to the Minnesota Vikings. I don't know. This pick is interesting to me just because maybe offensive line isn't their biggest need, but because they've like it says they've retooled it so much already. They've made a lot of moves to help improve it. They brought in Wolf Wolf Fries or Wolf Freeze, man. I don't know.
I
Which
think it's
he's one of the
Freeze.
it's Freeze.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's one of the best guards in football. And they also brought in Ryan Kelly, so they were just stealing from the Colts for some reason. I don't know what was going on there. But they brought in Will Freeze and Ryan Kelly, and they definitely could. Donovan Jackson could play tackle across from Darisaw instead of O'Neal, but I don't know. It's just like, is he going to start immediately? I feel like, I don't know.
I
We'll
think he
see.
will.
I
I
think
think
he
he's
will.
projected to start at left guard.
Yeah, we'll see. Oh, left guard. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. We'll see though. I do like this pick a lot. I love Donovan Jackson, so I'm just gonna have to give it an A minus based on how much I like Donovan Jackson and I like JJ McCarthy a lot. So I'm always a fan when a team opts to help their young quarterback.
Yeah, I think it's something that you reminded me of earlier when we were talking about the Minnesota O line, but that was really the thing that lost them the game against the
Yeah,
Rams in the wild card round. And I can understand why they went through all this to retool it, especially when you've got a guy like JJ McCarthy coming in and starting his first games in the NFL.
yeah.
But that's honestly, I think this is a good pick. If they're able to put all of the guys on the floor, I think Donovan Jackson did play. Did he? He played right guard, didn't he, in college?
No, left guard and left tackle.
Okay, my fault. I was thinking he played on the right side. But
Yeah,
yeah, so if they're able to put him at left guard as a starter, I like the tape that you put me onto for him. But he is a good player, and I think that if they're able to put these five guys together, Will Freeze, Ryan Kelly, Darisaw, is Darisaw gonna be back week one?
I'm not sure about that. Let me see. Darisaw estimated return
Steph.
October 24th, or it's
All right,
October,
so
or
he's
like they said early part of 2025. Sorry,
all right. So he'll miss some time, but
he
even then,
he
this
tore the
retool
ACL
O
in October.
line. Sorry.
He tore the ACL in October, so probably early in the
Okay,
season.
yeah. But yeah, this retooled O line is not anything to scoff at. Like they already had a pretty good O line regular season, and then it kind of collapsed later on in the season. But I think that it's a good pick. It might not be their biggest decision need, but I do think it's a good pick. I'd probably give it a solid B.
Okay. Next up, we got the New York Giants.
Ugh.
Jackson Dart. This pick has grown on me. Before, I probably would have given it a D. Now,
C.
I'm giving them a C minus. Giving them a C minus. Now, trading into the first for Jackson Dart, I don't really love that. And they did give up a decent amount, if I'm not mistaken. Didn't they give up their first? Did they give
They
what?
give up their first next year, I
Yeah,
believe.
that's
No, sorry, that was the Falcons. I think that was the Falcons. I
oh
don't know
yeah,
if
the
they.
Falcons trade was way too heavy in my opinion. James Pierce Jr.'s grade is going to be affected by that. But yeah, just
Yeah, they sent their second, a third, and a third.
their
So it's
second
not that
next
bad.
year or
Their
their
second
second
this
this year.
year,
My bad.
a third this year, and a third next year.
Okay, not too bad, not too bad. But yeah, they got their
That second
guy.
did turn into Jaden Higgins.
Yeah, Dayball liked him a lot. So I mean, it makes sense, and he's really not going to have to play this year. It's going to be Russ, Jameis, Dart, unless both of them get injured. Uh, you know, I guess he's going to play then, but I doubt he's going to play unless it's like 18th game of the season. Maybe they have nothing to play for, so he gets thrown in. Maybe see what he's got, like what the Patriots did with Joe Milton. If they
Yeah.
suck, but I mean, yeah, I really do think that. I mean, the Giants run the fourth most RPOs in basketball. Oh my goodness, and I'm tripping. The Giants are on the fourth most RPOs in football, so it's going to be a learning curve for Jackson Dart getting into the NFL. But I mean, going to that situation probably helps him a little bit. Also, with the fact that he's not probably going to have to play for at least 1 year at the very least. If it goes well
Hmm.
with Russell Wilson and they still don't feel like he's ready, who knows, right? So that's why I can bump it up to a C minus now. Just like after the realization that he's really not going to play that clip I saw at Gruden's QB class where
The
Gruden's like,
clap.
okay, what's your hard count? What are we doing? Kiffin, man, killing the
Oh my
quarterback.
God.
But
I clapped
yeah,
twice.
yeah, I just clapped twice. And what he's purple. That's it. But yeah, there's
Yeah.
gonna be a big learning curve for him, but we'll see how it goes. I give the
Yeah. I mean,
minus though.
sorry, you go ahead.
I was just saying
What
I
was
give
it?
the pick a C minus.
Yeah. I think, yeah, which it's good that he's sitting. That's one thing I wasn't thinking of. I was immediately thinking of him as a day one starter, and that made the pick a lot worse for me, like you said. But I had to remember that they do have Russ and Jameis over him. So, but those, yeah, especially with the Gruden clip, it's looking like those. The main knock on him being that Lane Kiffin offense might be more true than we might have thought. But
Well, I mean,
if
he
he's
still
yeah.
has time to learn, and those
Yeah,
are
that's what I was about to say. If
those
he's
are
sitting
good.
for these next 1, maybe 2 years, then the issues aren't as big, and he does have solid physical tools. Uh, he just doesn't have like a high floor or a low or a high ceiling for me. He's just kind of a guy, you know.
The
So
Jag.
uh, I'm just not a fan of Jackson Dart, so I can't give this anything high when you're trading up to get a QB that I'm not big on. But I'll give it like a D, yeah, C
You're
minus
the
maybe.
baddest No, you're not allowed to give Jackson Dart a C minus. You're giving him a D after
Yeah,
all the
you're right.
slander.
After everything I've said about him this offseason, he's a D.
Yeah. Next up, we've got James Pierce Jr. A pick that would have been much higher graded for me, getting a guy like this at pick 26, but that trade was insane. Uh, you know, Depending on whether Michael Penix Jr. pans out or not, if he doesn't, then if he's not the greatest and this pick is as high as it possibly could be, then right? But I mean,
Mm.
you get JPJ, you give up a first, bro. It's a B minus for me, man. Teetering on C plus just because of how much they gave up. I thought it was a lot more than I initially realized. I didn't really realize until I was looking over everything after the draft, like just looking over all the activity that happened, and I was pretty shocked by that. But apparently he kind of ran the school, and they people think that Tennessee catered too much to him. But once you get to the NFL, it's not going to be a thing anymore. You get to the NFL as a 26 pick, it's not going to be a thing anymore. So, just lock in on football. I think
Mm.
JPJ has all the tools to be great. So he's big. He has some length and weight problems, according to some people, but I still think he'll be a great player. And them being able to add Walker and Pierce Jr., I think it's great. But the trade is kind of
Yeah, I mean, in order for this to pan out, one, the Falcons have to be good this year, and two, James Pierce Jr. has to be the guy we thought he'd be last year. And so I thought it was going to be great for a team who snagged him in the 20 to 30 range because of how big of a name he was going into this year. And just being able to get him that low with the potential that he has was going to be great. But then when you see a team that's trading their next year's first round pick to get him, it just kind of removes all that value. And so I don't hate it, but I don't see the reason to do it when this is a pretty deep edge class. So
Yeah.
I'll give this like a C plus.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Just a C actually.
Let's see. Okay. Next up, we have Malachi Starks. This is one of the best picks of the draft, in my opinion. I'm giving this one an A, and I know Bengals fans were so frustrated that they let Malachi Starks. Malachi Starks was not off the board at this pick, and they decided to go with Shamar Stewart. And I know a lot of Bengals fans are really hot about that because they. Correct me if I'm wrong. They did not take a safety later on. They went with Demetrius Knight in the second round instead of Xavier Watts. I think Bengals fans and me included, the Bengals did not have a good draft in my opinion. I don't really agree with the decision to take Demetrius Knight over Xavier Watts just because there's guys like Stutzman and other guys that could have been there or they were there in the third round that you could have grabbed. But I mean, Starks is really great. He's got the versatility and although he didn't have the best 2020 whatever this year was 2024, he did showcase that he has the skills to play in several areas on the football field. So I do think Malachi Starks is an amazing pick. I give this one an A, especially because
Yeah,
it was at pick 27.
yeah, I completely agree. This is a guy that could have gone in the top 12 in some mock drafts. And so getting him at 27 is insane value. It's kind of a similar thing to the Eagles situation. Just teams that should have taken him or could have taken him just end up going in a different way. And the board works out in the best way possible for the Ravens. And so pairing him up with Kyle Hamilton is going to be a pretty nasty duo. And I think, yeah, this is an A pick.
All right. Next up, we've got Tyreek Williams, defensive tackle out of Ohio State, and they definitely needed interior defensive line, and I think just because of name value, right? Like this pick has gotten more slack than it deserves. Watching more and more tape on Tyreek Williams, I like him a lot. He's really good at defending the run, and he's got some good partners on the defensive line in Hutchinson and McNeil. I'm trying to think of anyone else. Zadarius Smith is washed, so I'm not counting him. Yeah, some good partners in McNeil and Hutchinson. So I do think he's an excellent run defender already, and he's definitely not a bad pass rusher whatsoever, not even close. So I do like this pick a lot. They addressed the need on the defensive line that they had. So I give this pick a B.
Yeah, you could say it's name value, but I'm just not the biggest fan of this pick. I don't think he's a D tackle that's worthy of spending a first round pick on. I think there's other areas in the defense that they could address, especially the edge room with the guys that are still on the board. So I would have rather them go in that direction. And then you saw a guy like Omar Norman Lott go at the end of the second round to you guys, and I think as much as I do really like him as a prospect. He's going to be a good D tackle in my opinion, but I think that you get more value out of taking one of the first round, one of the potential first round edges here, and then taking if you want to take Tyler Williams in the second round, take him in the second round because he's going to be there, honestly, and then or take Omar Norman Lott if he's not there. But yeah, I just don't. I'm not a huge fan of the pick. I'd probably give it a C plus.
Yeah, that's fair for sure. I feel like a lot of people kind of share your sentiment, but I do think it was better than a lot of people gave it credit for. Next up, we've got Washington Commanders taking Josh Connerly at 29. I like this pick a lot, and he's probably going to sit and learn, like this thing says, and because Tunsil's already there, so that kind of knocks the pick down a little bit for me, just because this is a team in win now mode. So towards the end of the second round, I felt like they should have just been looking to like just improve the team by any means possible, right? Whatever it takes. Travion is still on the board. I feel like he'd fit that offense well. And I was watching some of Travion Henderson's pass blocking clips. Like, what the heck?
He's
Like
so
this,
nice.
this is some of the best pass blocking I've ever seen in a running back in college. But yeah, I mean,
And who ended up getting him? The Patriots? Was
the
it?
Patriots, man. Oh my
Yeah, my
goodness.
goodness. What a draft.
Yeah, the Patriots had a
But
hell of a draft. But yeah, let me finish up.
yeah,
Just because he's gonna take over and learn, I really do think he had a great year at Oregon. Obviously, he has that clip against Mike Green at the Senior Bowl that'll probably haunt him until he plays NFL football. But I'd probably give this pick a B minus just because you just moved for Tunsil. But I mean, he's gonna get to sit. But he'll probably take over the line down the line just because. Laramie Tunsil is
like 32, I believe.
30. Okay, not too old, but he could
Oh,
play
he's
on
not
the right.
good.
He could play on the right side. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the pick?
Yeah, I'm just not the biggest fan of this. Like you said, I don't think tackle is like a spot where you're taking a first round pick to sit. You know, he's not a QB, and I think like even if it could work out, but
He could play. He could
I just
start on
don't
the
love
right
it.
though.
Goodness, Fred VanVleet.
He could start on the right
Ah,
side.
has he ever projected as a right tackle though?
But it's not. I really don't. I mean, this. I'm not saying it's an easy switch, but he's a good
I mean,
player.
tackle's like the hard might be the hardest position besides QB to adjust to, especially if you're switching sides.
I mean, yeah, that I guess you could say so, but it's like 5 months, and he's not even gonna. He might not even have to start immediately. So
Yeah, but I just assuming he does play on the left side, just having I just don't see the moving to get Laramie and then go get him unless it's like a 1 year deal, which it's not,
and
you know.
Laramie Tunsil was not that great this past year. So
But he's still for sure going to be the starter. Like
yeah, I know that, but yeah,
I just
they have Josh Connolly as the backup right tackle on the depth chart.
yeah. So I would have rather you take like I don't like a weapon, or if you want to go for the O line, take Josh Simmons.
Hmm.
But yeah, I just don't see taking a guy that plays on the right side when you just went and spent money on a who's supposed to be an elite right tackle. He might not be at this level, but who's supposed to be an elite right tackle and just drafting him to be his backup. I just think it makes more sense to surround Jaden Daniels with some more weapons. But I do believe they got some weapons in the later rounds, so
Yeah.
it is what it is. But I'd probably give this a C plus.
Okay. Next up, we've got Maxwell Hairston at 30. I probably give this pick a B plus. He's got the speed, he's got the frame, and probably a better 2023 than the 2024, and some off the field allegations that apparently he handled really well in interviews, according to reports. So yeah, I really do like Maxwell Hairston. You realized he was the guy that was dapping everyone up before the pick.
Yeah.
That's great to see. He just seems like a great guy. I'm going to
Mhm.
be rooting for Maxwell Harrison in the NFL, but
Yeah, I've
I
been
really
seeing a lot of his interviews, like fan interviews, and on TikTok. He just seemed very happy. Seemed like a good guy to talk to.
I really do like him, yeah. So, um, yeah, I like this pick a lot. B plus, I think is fair, and obviously Tre'Davious White isn't that good anymore, but like it says, he could be a good vet for him. So, yeah,
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good pick. He might not be my favorite corner at that spot, but I think he's a speed guy, and it's understandable to take him there. I think it's going to be a solid pick, and like you said, he can learn from Trey White. Definitely a bigger fan of some of the guys that went in the second round, but I still think it's a good enough pick, and it's understandable because he was a guy that was mocked in the first round quite a bit.
yeah, I do.
So,
Oh,
I
go ahead. Sorry,
Lisa, no, you
you can
got
go
it.
ahead.
I was just going to give my grade.
Oh,
All right,
okay.
well, I'd probably give it a B minus.
B minus, yeah. I do think like for Will Johnson to fall that far, his knees must have been really cooked. So I mean,
Mm,
I don't know if I can blame teams anymore, but I mean, we are not NFL insiders yet,
we'll get some
but
connections.
eventually one day. Okay, next up we have Jahad Campbell to the Philadelphia Eagles. I'll let you start on this one.
How he does it again, like you said, the rich get richer. It's an A plus pick. He's a guy that could have gone in the top 15, probably wouldn't have, but should have gone a lot higher than he did. With Nakobe being out for maybe half the season, this is going to be great for him to fill in. I've seen people saying he is going to play edge rusher. I just don't see that at all.
He
But
could, he
he's
can
going to
though.
blitz. He's gonna rush the passer, but I think he's going to be a full time off ball linebacker.
Okay.
But especially when Nakobe's out. Maybe when Nakobe's back in, we can mix him in a little bit. But when Nakobe's back, especially our base package is going to be incredible to watch. Just three, I mean, Zach Bond's elite. He's going to stay elite, I predict. And Nakobe Dean was very solid this past year. And then John Campbell, who I think will be very solid, just having the three of them as your linebacker core on top of this stacked defense is incredible. Especially with Zach Bond wasn't like bad necessarily rushing the passer. He had like maybe 5 sacks this year or something like that, but he's not a guy that you're sending to rush the passer pretty often. And so having a guy like Jahad Campbell who was an edge rusher and can put pressure is very nice to see. So yeah, I mean it's just another Harry pick, getting the best defensive guy on the board. It's an A+ for me.
Yeah, I give this an A+ as well. That's all I have to say. Now to my Chiefs, man. I definitely understand why you guys moved up, but I think it would have been I think we made the right decision trading with you guys because it kind of would have been scary. Obviously, the return would have been bigger if we were trading out of the first round, but kind of would have been scary to trade into the second round and potentially miss out on a prospect like Josh Simmons right here. This is ball knowledge. Without the patellar,
That's it. Mm.
without the patellar tendon, man, the tear, I really think he could have been a top 10 pick. And for us to get him at 32, be able to trade down a spot and still get Josh Simmons. Of course, it's a win win trade, but I think it was great for both
Mhm.
teams. And for us to be able to trade down a spot and still grab a guy like Josh Simmons, who I personally love, had him mocked at 10 to the Bears at one point. So I really do think he's a fantastic player. Just really great, man. Like his tape against Oregon before he got hurt. Like he was fantastic that whole game. So I really do think that was a great trade for us, but also a great pick.
Yeah, I also think so. I think this is an A pick. You put me on to how good Josh Simmons is, and really watching some of his tape from especially 2023, even to the start of this year, he was very good to watch. Like he's a guy that I don't know. He's just a great prospect. Like he put up Kelvin Banks level tape, in my opinion, and he's just a guy that's going to fall to the Chiefs because why not? And y'all need the O line. Um, but yeah, he's a baller for sure, and I like the pick a lot. I'm going to give it an A.
All right. Yeah. So that wraps it up. We are all but done. Late night recording for us. So if you guys could show love to this video,
Well,
liking
nice.
it, sharing it, whatever, it would be greatly appreciated. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, let us know down in the comments if you agree with our grades. If there's anything that you don't agree with, let us know in the comments. Go follow our socials: TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. Those will all be in the links in the description of this video. And we will see you guys in the next one.